to the conversation that we're going to be having regarding the upcoming municipal elections, voter apathy, and what the polls have been saying. Joining us this afternoon is Ipsos's Public Affairs Director, Ezethu Nsiki, and PlanAct Senior Program Coordinator, Makwela. Thank you so much to both of you for your patience, and thank you for waiting for us in this regard. Let me start with you, Mr. Makwela. Do South Africans understand the importance of voting? What does voting mean to us as a people?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me this afternoon. Voting is a obligation, or rather a sign that individuals in South Africa show that they want to participate in the governance of their country. So it's a very important tool that our country has for people to participate in the governance of their country. So it's very important that people should participate in the elections because they shape the nature of their government in this country.
Is there a correlation between the power that South Africans have through their vote and the exercising of that power by actually going to the polls and voting? Do you find that those two can actually and do coexist?
Absolutely, yes, because the power of voting either changes government or retain the existing government. So the power of vote is very, very important, and it has weight. You see, vote has got weight because it determines the future, the direction of the country, and how government must be run in this country. So you cannot divorce the power of vote from the system of government, especially in our country. So it's very important and necessary to vote.
Ms. Nsiki, I'm going to come to you in just a moment to talk about the Ipsos poll that you did. But before that, Mr. Makwela, what are the important factors about this upcoming local government election? Why is it so important?
Well, they're very important because these are local government elections, unlike the national government. These are where service delivery happens at a local level, where bread and butter issues are being addressed and attended to. So the value and the importance of local government elections cannot be underestimated because that's where communities at a locality decides who needs to be in local government, who should be their ward councillor, and also the relationship that the citizens should have with their local municipality. So the power of the vote in this coming local government elections cannot be underestimated. That is why I think we as PlanAct are calling for communities and citizens of respective wards to go out in numbers and go and vote and demonstrate their commitment to this democracy and the government that we want in this country.
Mr. Nsiki, with the upcoming local government elections just around the corner, there was a study, a poll that was conducted by Ipsos. Tell us more about this and how it was conducted.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the program this afternoon. Ipsos conducted a study in August 2021, and this is the same as the studies that have been conducted in the past between the periods of 2019, 2020, and going all the way to 2021. And this one in particular was conducted telephonically with South African citizens from across the different 9 provinces in the country. And respondents for the study were selected randomly using our random digital dialing system, wherein a computer randomly selects numbers of South African citizens, and those were interviewed then by our qualified interviewers. And if you look at in terms of coverage, the study was representative of the 96% of South African citizens that have access to a mobile cell phone.
And what were the type of questions that were asked during the study pertaining to the upcoming local government elections?
a number of questions we asked in the study, but I think the interesting ones I think that would be of interest for today's discussions were around people's, degree of support for the different political parties. For instance, we asked a question around, if you were to vote, which political party would you vote for? And if you don't choose, or if you did not decide to select a party, what would those reasons be? And also we asked questions around whether or not people would be voting in the upcoming local government elections, and just to gauge voter turnout, and also to sort of, predict what the outcome of the elections would be. And I mean, these findings are not a clear prediction of who's going to win, but they do give an indication of where people's support is sort of tilted towards.
Well, based on the outcome of the study, over 49%, around 49% said that they would support the African National Congress, 17.9% said they would support the Democratic Alliance, and 14.5% said they would support the EFF. Based on previous Ipsos studies that have been done, how accurate have these polls actually proven themselves to be when you look at them now after the elections and you see whether or not people actually did vote according to what your polls had said?
In the past, our polls have been quite accurate in terms of, gauging voter support prior to the election and, versus the actual outcome of the election. For instance, when we conducted the poll in 2019, the ANC was rated at about 55% in terms of, people's confidence and willingness to vote for the ANC. And in fact, when the election results came out, that's where the ANC was sort of sitting when it came to the national election. So these polls have been quite accurate in terms of predicting where people's support would lie in terms of the elections.
And how did the smaller, newer parties fare, the Action SAs, for example?
I think when it comes to voter support, it's more or less the ANC, the EFF, and also the DA that sort of had more supporters. The smaller ones, although they've been mentioned by certain individuals in the poll, but they tend to still be at around a 1% to 2 percentage points in terms of support. The three parties are the ones that are sort of garnering the majority of the support, with, of course, the ANC taking the lead, and followed by the DA and later the EFF.
And what are the public perceptions on coalitions?
When it comes to this study, it's not quite clear as to what the public perceptions are when it comes to coalitions. But I do think that, when it comes to actually deciding which party and whether or not to actually vote, people look at issues around, their socio-economic conditions, and they then decide from there whether or not to vote. For instance, in the study, we saw a clear linkage between unemployment and people's willingness to vote. We got a number of people that said they would not vote simply because they were unemployed, and also those that said they would vote only if they were assured that somebody that they would actually vote for would be the one that would take their lives forward in terms of improving their livelihood. So they basically want someone who's going to be able to do the job. And you got those who would say they were willing to vote for anyone as long as it's not the ANC. So that was not quite clear, but what was clear were people's reasons for wanting to vote, and their reasons behind, choosing certain parties versus others.
Mr. Makwela, from the study, it's clear that people want leaders that they can trust. They want leaders who are going to be held accountable. So how can, citizens hold their councillors to account?
Well, there are certain building blocks and non-negotiables that I, as a voter, expect from a ward councillor. One is that, is my councillor going to make sure that there's meaningful public participation in the affairs of my municipality? Two, whether my councillor is willing to be put on test and to be monitored by citizens that have voted for him or for her. So the issue of social accountability is very critical. Accountability plays an important point. The third issue is whether my ward councillor is going to put value and contribute value in my life as a voter. So those are three critical things that I think are very important that I expect from my ward councillor. So our role as citizens is to make sure that we hold our ward councillors accountable to the things that they said they will do for us. You see, we vote for you because on the strength that you said I will do 1, 2, 3. So failure to do that means you have abdicated your responsibility as a ward councillor. You've actually lied to us that you said you will do this and that for us, and you're not doing it. So we have the responsibility to hold you accountable and to call you into order if you deviate from what you had promised us. So that's the role of the voters in this upcoming elections.
Mr. Nsiki, we've had elections before. People have had goals, they've had issues that they wanted addressed, and even post the elections, those very same election tickets that councillors were using during the election never at times get realized. In this regard, based on this particular poll that you did people speak about the lack of service delivery? Did they speak about disappointment? And what was their general disposition regarding unmet promises?
Well, when it comes to this poll, we did not get to tackle issues of service delivery, but I think from the findings, it is quite apparent that people are concerned, and I think, the lack of service delivery, or poor service delivery rather, it sort of, impacts how people think. It impacts people's levels of confidence in political parties, and also impacts people's appetite to actually vote. I mean, what we saw is that, interestingly, some of the provinces that you would expect to get a good voter turnout, like your metropolitan areas, what this poll has sort of revealed is that people in the likes of Gauteng and other metropolitan areas are less likely to vote in these elections compared to people in the more rural parts of South Africa, like Limpopo and the Northwest. And Free State is interestingly at the bottom of the list. Many people in Free State are actually not showing willingness rather to vote in these elections. And I think if you can link that to issues around service delivery and political stability, one would actually look at Free State and understand that there's been some sort of political turmoil at Free State recently, and that could have an impact in terms of people's confidence and willingness to actually vote. And I think also the fact that people who did not select certain political parties made mention of issues around them wanting a leader that can implement or effect change, and them citing issues of unemployment, saying if they are unemployed, if their needs are not met, then why should they vote? I think that also paints a picture as to the link between service delivery, the link between people's unmet needs, and also their willingness to vote and who they decide to vote for. And I also think we can start to see a decline also looking at previous polls and the current poll in terms of people's support for the ANC. It has been declining over time, and in as much as its position is not threatened by the DA and the EFF in terms of people's willingness to still vote for the ANC, I think those people that were not perhaps fulfilled in terms of their expectations may have been the ones that have dropped off. So I think service delivery is quite important, and it does impact on who people vote for and whether they do go back to vote.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for your insights this afternoon as we edge closer to the local government elections. That's Ipsos's Public Affairs Director, Ms. Ezethu Nsiki, and PlanAct Senior Programs Coordinator, Mr. Makwela. Thank you to both of you.